Welcome back, everyone. We always love sharing these moments with you, so let us settle in and talk about what is happening next. Oh my goodness, I just have to talk about the absolute shocker that is brewing over at the Metro Court pool. When I first heard about this upcoming scene, my jaw practically hit the floor. Picture this. The sun is shining, the water is sparkling, and sitting right there in the middle of all that daytime glamour are Valentin Cassadine and Jason Morgan. I mean, just saying those two names in the same sentence feels like a recipe for some serious drama. Valentin, with his perfectly tailored suits and that smooth, velvet voice of his, sitting across from our stoic, ever-guarded Jason in his signature dark clothes. It is such a visual contrast, and I could feel the tension just thinking about it. What on earth could these two possibly have to talk about? We all know they do not exactly run in the same social circles, so seeing them together is enough to make anyone stop right in their tracks and wonder what kind of wild scheme is being hatched. And speaking of stopping in your tracks, guess who walks right into this incredibly strange meeting? None other than Carly Spencer herself. Oh, you just know my heart skipped a beat when I realized Carly was going to stumble upon this. We all know Carly so well by now. She is fiercely, relentlessly protective of Jason, and she has a radar for trouble that is sharper than anyone else in Port Charles. I can just imagine the look of pure, unadulterated shock washing over her face as she processes the sight of her best friend sitting down for a chat with a Cassadine. Valentin did not give her any warning, of course. Why would he? But Carly being caught completely off guard is always a sight to behold. You can just feel the protective mama bear energy radiating off her. She must be wondering if Jason is in trouble or if Valentin is trying to drag him into one of his complicated webs. Her reaction alone is going to be worth the price of admission. Now, let us get to the really juicy part of this meeting. Valentin is actually offering Jason a job. Yes, you heard me right, a job. When I found out that Valentin explicitly tells Jason that this idea is entirely his own, I was so intrigued. But what shocked me even more was Jason's reaction. Instead of shutting Valentin down immediately, walking away, or giving him that classic icy Jason glare, he actually tells Valentin to keep talking. He wants to hear more. I was sitting here thinking, what could Valentin possibly say to keep Jason Morgan in his seat? Jason is not an easy man to impress, and he certainly does not trust easily. But there is something about this offer that has caught his attention. It makes you realize that Jason is in a very unique, transitional phase of his life right now. He is listening because, for the first time in a long time, he might actually need to hear what someone outside his usual circle has to offer. Let us take a step back and really look at where Jason is right now, because it explains so much about why he is even entertaining this conversation. Jason is no longer working as the enforcer for Sonny Corinthos. That chapter is closing, as both he and Sonny are trying to step away from the mob life to protect their loved ones. But what does Jason do now? He has not been contacted by ELQ or Aurora Media for any corporate positions. And honestly, can you picture Jason sitting in a stuffy boardroom looking at spreadsheets? Bless his heart. But his only real business experience on paper was managing the logistics for Corinthos Coffee. He was basically acting as an office manager, overseeing coffee shipments when he was not out doing Sonny's dangerous bidding. There is no word yet on whether he is going to divest his interests in Valenino's gym or Pazzulo's, but the man needs a real, structured purpose. He needs something to do that uses his specific skill set without dragging him back into the underworld. That is exactly where Valentin comes in, and why this conversation is so fascinating to me. Valentin is a very smart man. He knows better than to offer Jason some shady, illegal job. If this were about moving contraband or doing dirty work, Jason would have walked away before Valentin even finished his sentence. No, Valentin is talking about a legitimate job in a legitimate enterprise. We have to remember that the massive auction for Jen Sidwell's assets is looming over Port Charles. Everyone wants a piece of that pie. Sonny, Drew Kane and Valentin are all circling like sharks, ready to bid. But Valentin has a very specific, deeply personal goal in mind. He wants Windermere and Spoon Island back. He wants to restore that legacy to the Cassadine family. And if he manages to win those properties at the auction, he is going to need someone incredibly capable to secure them. That is where I believe Jason fits perfectly into this grand puzzle. My heart really goes out to young Charlotte Cassadine in all of this. She has been through so much upheaval, and all she really wants is a sense of home and stability. She desperately wants to live at Windermere again. She misses the sprawling estate, and more than anything, she wants to be able to keep her beloved horses nearby in the old Cassadine stables, assuming they are still standing and in good condition. Valentin loves his daughter more than anything in this world. We have seen time and time again that he will move heaven and earth to make Charlotte happy and keep her safe. He wants to give her that dream of returning to Windermere. But he also knows that the Cassadine legacy comes with a lot of dark corners and potential dangers. If he is going to move his precious daughter back to that isolated island, he needs to know, without a shadow of a doubt, that she is protected by the absolute best. And who is the absolute best protector in Port Charles? Jason Morgan. It makes so much sense when you really think about it. I truly believe Valentin wants to hire Jason to be Charlotte's personal bodyguard, and eventually the head of security for Windermere once the auction is settled. Can you just imagine Jason taking on this role? It is such a beautiful shift for his character. Instead of protecting mob bosses and enforcing territorial disputes, he would be using his incredible instincts and tactical skills to watch over a young girl and secure a historic estate. It brings out that deeply protective, almost fatherly side of Jason that I just adore. He has always been a guardian at heart, and putting him in charge of Charlotte's safety feels like a strangely perfect match. Valentin knows Jason is loyal to a fault, and if Jason gives his word to protect Charlotte, nothing in this world would be able to harm her. But what makes this potential arrangement even sweeter, and what I think might actually convince Jason to say yes is the connection to his own son, Danny. Danny and Charlotte have grown so close recently. They spend a lot of time together navigating their complicated teenage lives. Jason has been trying so hard to rebuild his relationship with Danny to be a present and positive force in his son's life. If Jason takes this job protecting Charlotte, he would naturally be around Danny much more often. It is a wonderful, heartwarming thought. Jason would not just be working, he would be actively present in the environment where his son is hanging out. For a father who has missed out on so much time, this has to be an incredibly tempting prospect. It allows him to do what he does best, protecting people while simultaneously nurturing his bond with his boy. However, I cannot shake this feeling of dread about where all of this is ultimately heading. The information I have been poring over hints at a massive, terrifying twist. Valentin and Sonny might actually team up. Just let that sink in for a moment. Sonny Corinthos and Valentin Cassadine, two of the most powerful, ruthless men in Port Charles, joining forces. The very thought of it sends shivers down my spine. The notes mention that this collaboration is brewing and it is setting the stage for a brand new disaster. If Jason is working for Valentin and Valentin is teaming up with Sonny, it means Jason is going to be pulled right back into Sonny's orbit, but under entirely different, far more complicated circumstances. It feels like a powder keg just waiting for a spark, and I am sitting here on the edge of my seat, terrified of the explosion. I keep trying to piece together how this alliance would even form, and it has to be connected to the Jen Sidwell auction. We know Sonny wants a piece of those assets, and we know Valentin is desperate for Windermere. What if they realize that fighting each other will only allow someone else, like Drew Kane, to swoop in and take everything? What if they pool their immense resources to dominate the auction? It makes strategic sense, but emotionally, it is a disaster waiting to happen. Sonny and Valentin do not trust each other, and putting Jason right in the middle of their fragile truce is so dangerous. Jason is trying to leave the criminal world behind, but if his new boss and his old boss start conspiring together, how can he possibly stay clean? I am so worried for Jason. He is trying to do the right thing, trying to be a good father, and yet the shadows of Port Charles just keep reaching out to pull him back in. And let us circle back to Carly, because you know she is going to lose her absolute mind when she finds out about all of this. If she is shocked just seeing Jason and Valentin having a conversation by the pool, imagine her reaction when she learns they might be working together. Now, multiply that by 1,000 when she finds out Sonny might be teaming up with Valentin too. Carly's entire world revolves around keeping her family safe, and in her eyes, Valentin is a wild card that cannot be trusted. She is going